Peace, what up, a place called home, Hip Hop Mondays. This is the introduction to hip hop. So Kimmy and I are happy to teach you guys this class. This is lesson 1. What's the first question of the day? Kimmy, what's the first question of the day? I believe the first question of today is, what is hip hop? Well, let's start with that question. What is hip hop in general? Hip hop is a culture designed by a nation of young, disenfranchised, and underprivileged people, whom through their various struggles and stages of their lives and development, they found themselves on a quest for something a little bit more. It was following the Vietnam War. It was a time when America was still divided and turbulent, almost as we're divided right now over our current war. So if you look at the situations that are going on today, we were kind of parallel with what was going on back then at a time when hip hop was born. It was a very intense time, and you found that young families coming back from the Vietnam War were being torn apart because of drugs and poverty and different situations that affected the inner city. The young people that grew up in that time were the first forefathers of hip hop. They learned through the music that their parents listened to about struggle, about survival, and about using their creative art and their voice to develop a culture of hip hop. Do you know your hip hop history? Hip hop is a culture that was designed by a group of young people, young disenfranchised and underprivileged people that found themselves wanting to have their voice heard. You know, it's almost like how whenever you want to say something and you want to really be heard, you get louder. Well, hip hop got louder. It got louder inside of people to the point that they began to write songs, break dance, DJ, graffiti, do anything to be heard. Hip hop became this incredible culture of your people, young people, speaking out and telling their struggle following the Vietnam War that had the country divided. It had everybody was split apart, fighting just like we are right now in our current war. And then people were just, separated all across the country. So it was a tool that brought us all together. Hip hop culture, it was born and steeped out of the struggle that fell upon us after civil rights and after the 70s. And there were a lot of incredible people from the South Bronx that really helped bring out hip hop and make it grow. And we're going to talk about them a little later. What is a culture? Hip-hop culture, as we talk about, is a culture that's built from a civilization. They say it takes about 10,000 to 13,000 years to build an actual civilization which becomes a culture. And think about it, hip-hop did it in less than 35 years. Over the last several years, people found themselves celebrating a music that's called hip-hop. Born in 1979 by a gentleman that a lot of people call the father of hip-hop, Kool Herc. Coming from Jamaica, playing dancehall and break beats, he found this whole new revolution and movement born inside of the hip-hop sound that drew people from all over different communities, from black and white and Spanish and various communities in New York City. They all came together, steeped in the South Bronx, however, and it inspired a nation to just take strength and come together and start telling their stories. Now, in the very beginning, hip-hop wasn't always just about, rhymes and rapping. It was actually just doing the dozens. It was the best way to one-upmanship of your brother or your fellow brother. But then suddenly someone came along and realized that this voice of this young generation and young people had a way of being sold to a different audience that would help change the way that we viewed each other and the way that we got along and tolerated each other. And that's what we're talking about, Africa Bambaataa, who brought along a whole new movement through the use of hip-hop music and culture. Hip-hop, redefining itself as a movement, started out with a young man by the name of Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation. He formed this organization as a result of his fight against gang violence in parts of New York City. He felt that his beloved hip-hop could change things by fighting back and helping to develop a reason to come together. He developed the Zulu Nations, whose motto and creed was peace, unity, love, and having fun. It was their way of bringing people together on one plane and one level in what Africa Bambaataa called one nation, the nation of hip-hop. Bambaataa redefined hip-hop as a movement by introducing 5 principal elements. These elements would be the backbone of the hip-hop culture. This would be almost like the Bible of hip-hop. It was what you would follow if you truly considered yourself hip-hop. And they were pretty simple. They encompassed all the things that we think is hip-hop to this day. Breakdancing, graffiti art, MCing or rapping, DJing, and the most important, which we feel obviously because this is what we do, knowledge and understanding and wisdom. Understanding your culture, understanding those 5 key principal elements. That's what defined hip hop as a culture for millions of people, and that's what developed this as a nation. And to support that nation, people like African Bambaataa did a lot of incredible songs like Planet Rock. He inspired the Zulu Nation, which created the Soul Sonic Force, which created a whole vacuum of other ways that hip hop grew and became a powerful and incredible culture for all nations worldwide. What is breaking? Breaking is one of the key elements. It's actually one of the elements I felt like started the whole thing. Breaking is dancing. It's the art of physical movement to illustrate hip hop's point and illustrate your association with hip hop. Art. The art element of hip hop is, similar to the way Picasso painted and expressed himself, the way a fine expressionist, paints a picture and tells his story. Hip hop learned to tell itself through fine art, through graffiti art, not tagging. Tagging is a whole other thing, but art itself speaks through hieroglyphics. If you look at the ancient Egyptian time, when we told stories through a lot of different ways of putting images on walls. Well, that's the same way that graffiti art tells a story. Hip hop is, again, through many facets, always about teaching and speaking and being heard. So when we say art, the art element of hip hop is the graffiti art. That became the art element. What is DJing? DJing back in the old school era, I guess you could say, of hip hop, starting from the end of the disco era with the DJs and spinning records and finding music. The DJs found what was called the break beat. This was the beat of the song where the song would break down. And the DJ would spin that break beat over and over again in a looping fashion, similar to how we record a beat today and loop it on a digital device. But back then, DJs would do it live. So the DJ became the backbone of the hip-hop elements ladder, because that DJ provided the sound. It's almost like how the drum provides the sound for the music. The DJ provided the sound to start the breakings, that started the b-boy, that started the dancer, that started the MC, that started the graffiti artist to go spray. It is the foundation of hip hop. The MC, who is the MC? The MC is like the chatter, like the dance hall, like dance hall music. It's the person that chats and tells the story and is the illustrator of the story, the narrator, if you will. Back in the day, the MC used to be the guy that big up the crew. He would stand beside the DJ, and as the DJ would spin the records and the breakdancers and the b-boys be down in front doing their thing, you'd have the DJ, you had the MC or the chatter standing beside the DJ, chatting up the crew and saying how fresh the DJ was, and how fresh the dancers are, and how fresh the MC is. And eventually, over time, the MC went from behind the stage to the front of the stage as he began to tell more and more stories and became the storyteller that told exactly what's going on, that talked about the message, that talked about what was happening in the community. And they began to tell the stories that people would take home with them, and they began to remember that the MC is the storyteller. Another true and important element, as all elements of hip hop are: the DJ, the graffiti artist, the break dancer, the MC. What is knowledge and understanding? Knowledge and understanding is one of the important elements, which we would call the most important element of the 5 elements of hip hop. It's the understanding of your culture. It's knowing those other 4 elements and knowing that it all leads to unity. Remembering the motto of African Bambaataa and Zulu Nation, it was about peace, unity, and love. Unity being the core, love being the thing that we brought us together, and peace being the ultimate goal of it all. Is we wanted to design peace in our communities by loving one another and uniting for one common cause, and that became hip hop.